living in a democracy is not something that we inherit. It is not something that we inhabit. It is not something that we consume. It is something that we actively build together. And I want to talk about the challenges of democracy as a challenge that each of us has to live up to. It is a challenge that we claim to be proud of, but in fact, I would argue that living in a democracy is not something that we inherit. It is not something that we inhabit. It is not something that we consume. It is something that we actively build together. And in order to continue to build this democracy, I'm going to argue tonight that we have to shift some of our assumptions about what it means to be a Democrat small d. And by Democrat small d, I am not alluding to a particular political party or affiliation. I am referring to a set of values that capture the idea of rule by the people, in which all of the people can actively participate in the process of making decisions that affect their lives. Now, why do I say this is particularly timely? Because I think that as Americans, we have to come to grips not only with threats from abroad to our, quote, way of life and our commitment to democracy, but with internal threats to our commitment to democracy. And one of those internal threats, I believe, is that we have taken the connection between education and democracy for granted. And we have assumed that as long as we provide education to some, and those few who get not only a good K through 12 education, but an excellent college education, that they will be in a position to lead all of the rest of us with intelligence, with compassion, and with a sense of trying to contribute to the greater good. But I worry about that set of assumptions, and I worry about that set of assumptions because so many of us believe that getting a good education has absolutely nothing to do with living in a multiracial democracy. In fact, if you ask college students, if you ask your peers, do you think it's important to think about politics? 70% say no. If you ask them, what is important about going to college, about getting an education, 75% report that the main thing they want to get out of college is to make a lot of money. To be entirely accurate, of the 75%, 60% say they want to make a lot of money, and 15% say they want to make a hell of a lot of money. So they are going to college to make money. And where does that leave those of us who are worried about their capacity to assume leadership in a multiracial democracy?